Welcome to part 3 of this OpenInsight 9 and 9.1 review. To help me through this part of the video, I've created a very simple application that's going to prompt for a number of the windows. But before we actually get into the 9 and 9.1 stuff, I'd like to just run up my media library application. Now this is an example of what you can build with very little code using version 9. I'm just going to reduce these windows for a second. That's better. This is set to open full screen. Okay, so as I said, this is completely written in 9 by myself with very little code. I can't cut any code, and it can show what you can now do with OpenInsight 9 and 9.1 very quickly and very easily. I'm not going to go into too much detail because this application is freely available to anybody that wants a copy. But two of the things that I will mention is the camera information here is a .NET control. Now this .NET control has been brought into OpenInsight, and what it does is it interrogates a JPEG file and it extracts from that all of the camera information. I mean, this image was taken by my Canon camera, so I can see that it was taken by that, the f number, exposure settings, f settings, etc. Lots and lots of useful information. If I got a GPS aware camera, then I'd have GPS information in here as well. The other thing I'll show while I'm in here is the OIPI.net being the new report engine. Let me just resize this window as well. That's better, we can see what's going on now. Okay, so this is a new OIPI print engine which is set using VS Printer 2 in the OIPI config file. Just a couple of things to note here is the thumbnails, very useful for navigating around. And if I was to zoom in on the report, I can again use these thumbnails to move around that actual particular page. So this is very nice. Okay, so it's come out of this application. Now, so as I said, it's readily available to anybody that wants a copy, and I have a PDF which is the developer's briefing. It runs through all of the main points of the application, how I did it, example code, etc. All the code readily available from the works content that Revelation provide. There's also a user manual, and the user manual is actually quite interesting. I'm using an OLE control, so in this application here, this is an OLE control, and I've created my help files using standard HTML files. So I've got rich media in here, and I can move around quite nicely and quite easily using this particular control. So just another option of how to put together help files. I'm not going to talk about the blog code publisher or the progress bar. Those are two third-party things from Sprezzatura, and I'm going to cover those in another video under Sprezzatura shortly. The first thing we're going to have a look at is going to be the list populator. So if I run up this, there's an example form here. The first is showing a standard drop down with 3 items. The second is all these are using the customer's file name, and the first is a field which is last name sorted by ascending left, and also a literal of none. So if we run that, you can see I've got a literal of none in there. Oops, sorry, a literal of none. This was for Anders. We'll see in a moment how this is put together. So these are the 2 literals at the top of the list, and then the ascending left list below. The next example is a descending left, obviously without our none in there. If the field doesn't exist, obviously we just get a blank. We can produce a complete customer record on the ID, so this is Mike's record, ID number 1. We can also show the first name or whatever's in field number 1. Okay, so let's just go into OpenInsight. This is a new IDE within OpenInsight, but what I'm going to do is just go into the forms designer, and we'll go in and we'll open up the list populator examples window. Just move this out of the way for the moment. Okay, that will do. We can see all of those. So with the standard drop down, if I open this, you can see in items I've just got item 1, item 2, item 3. That's all we've got in there. However, for the others, so we'll just look at the ascending left none. If I go into here, within the items, I've got a bracket, field name, customers, and then a field of last name, and a sort by ascending left. That's all you need to do to bring in and populate that combo box using those details. Now if you remember, I had none and verandas. Those are the literal items that have been defined in here, and they display at the top of the list where we're bringing in a dynamic list. So that's all there is to creating the combo, populating the combo lists. Edit tables. Quite a lot has been done with the edit tables in 9 and 9.1, and we started to play around with the .NET edit table. This is just an example. You can click on the headings and you can have events, so these could be sorting. You need a bit of code behind there. We've got checkboxes, etc., and you can change the look and the way that it is working. So this is just an example of a .NET edit table control within OpenInsight. This is the OpenInsight edit table control, and one of the things that a lot of people have asked me for, particularly when you're getting large grids on a screen, is better visibility of where I am within the edit table, which cell has got focus. Using the new focus cell properties, we are now able to address those issues. So you can see here that I've got a yellow cell with a red border, and as I move around, the row that I'm on is now very clearly marked in blue, and the cell that I'm working with is blue with a nice red border. So it's very, very easy, if I had lots of data in here, to see exactly where I was. Now I'll show you how to set those. Those are set in the database manager, and if we go to the environment settings, window and form settings, in here you can see that there is the edit table focus cell settings, where we can set the font, the foreground color, background color, etc. So for my particular table, my selected background color for the selected cell was blue, and the rectangle was red with light weight on it. So very, very easy to set. While we're in the environment settings, let's just take a very quick look at the report security. Report security can be handled in two ways. Either you can exclude a whole table, this is excluding the books table, or you can exclude on a column. So if I was to go to the MP demo table here, I can see all the fields to exclude. Now for the moment I haven't got any fields excluded, so let's just come out of here for the second. We'll go to TCL, and using the assistant we'll do a list, and we'll choose the MP demo, and in here we'll choose the first name, last name, phone, email, and the fax. Email address is listed for each of the individuals. Okay, so let's just come back out of here, go back to the database manager, into the environment settings, and this time we'll choose our MP demo, and we'll exclude the email address because we don't want that to, and we'll run that same list statement, and you can see now that the email address has actually been excluded from the report. So TCL and all the reporting tools are going to respect that removal of that data. Okay, coming back to the edit tables, there is another test form within version 9, which is the test new ET styles. In here there are a number of buttons that are going to affect the table at the top here. So the first one is the options button. Column 2 will have a button that calls the options event for the edit table control. So we've now got a button in here. I don't have any options, but if I did then they would be showing. We've got vertical styles, so that we can put additional text in, or pictures, or whatever we want to. We can force uppercase in row 2. So in here, once I've clicked the button and I'm typing, it's all uppercase without actually clicking on my caps lock.